Hello everyone, welcome back to H&P Podcast, a podcast that helps you breathe easier in life. I'm so glad to see you all again in a brand new episode.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals, they take us higher. The night's young and it's just begun as she puts her hand in mine.
The weather has been quite terrible lately, and my voice is a little under the weather right now. I hope it doesn't affect today's podcast too much. Loneliness is the feeling of being isolated, lacking relationships you can rely on, with no one to share your thoughts and feelings. One of the greatest misconceptions people have is thinking that loneliness is good, that it's the price we pay for personal growth, or that loneliness is simply because we're introverted. Brené Brown once said, "Loneliness is fine, but you need someone to tell them that loneliness is fine." So, do you currently have someone to share your life with? And if not, then you really need to find that person. The Roman philosopher Seneca once said, "If you remove friendship from life, you remove the sun from the world." Modern sociological studies increasingly affirm the importance of friendship, connection, and community in contributing to our happiness and health. Human connections are one of the few external factors that directly impact our well-being and sense of satisfaction. These connections can significantly boost our overall life contentment, regardless of our circumstances. Social psychologist John Cacioppo and his fellow researchers have highlighted this in their studies. Meanwhile, neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky, after years of studying a troop of baboons in Samburu, Kenya, drew some crucial conclusions. He found that baboons with more friendships, and longer-lasting ones, had a much higher ability to handle stress and, in fact, experienced less stress compared to other baboons. The baboons that spent more time sitting close to and grooming their friends seemed far less affected by external troubles. Fostering healthy social connections helps us reduce stress, which is one of the key factors that diminishes happiness and harms our health. Several studies conducted on about 10,000 people across Europe and America have arrived at the same conclusion. People with friends tend to live longer. If we don't factor in age or health, a person living in isolation has a risk of death twice as high in a year compared to those who are secure in their long-term relationships. Meanwhile, smoking only increases the risk by 1.5 times. Could this indirectly mean that having no friends is more lethal than smoking? A study from Stanford University revealed even more astonishing findings. Researchers divided breast cancer patients into two groups. One group received standard treatments, while the other regularly participated in sessions where they shared experiences and empathized with one another. The results were incredible. Patients in the group that shared and empathized had a better ability to endure pain, a more positive mood, and lived twice as long as those who only received conventional treatments. Loneliness burdens both the mind and body, acting as a root cause of suffering. Stress hormones like cortisol and corticoids strongly attack the immune system. No matter how much we try to deny it, deep down, we all need someone to connect with. Someone to be by our side. So stop fighting it. Are you yearning for someone to connect with? To be close to? As Brené Brown said, "Loneliness is fine, but you need someone to tell them that loneliness is fine." The urge to connect originates from specific neural networks in our brain, deeply rooted in the ancient parts of it. When certain areas of the midbrain, such as the thalamus or prefrontal cortex, are stimulated, animals cry out in distress with sounds that only occur when they feel abandoned. From an evolutionary perspective, these behaviors are seen in mammals as a means to enhance the survival of newborns. However, humans display these symptoms less overtly. When we're lonely, we don't shout, "I'm so lonely." Instead, we often feel the same sensations: emptiness, restlessness, tension, insomnia, or self-doubt. Acts of love, comfort, protection, and spending time together not only shield our immune system, but also enhance growth. Tiffany Field from the University of Miami conducted a very simple experiment. She selected some infants in sterile incubators who lacked physical contact and affection. Over 3 days, she personally cared for, held, and comforted these babies. The results were extraordinary. These babies gained weight rapidly and were healthier compared to those left in incubators. After just a week, they were discharged from the incubators earlier than expected. In the 13th century, Emperor Frederick II of Sicily conducted what is considered one of the earliest psychological experiments. He isolated several infants who hadn't yet learned to speak in a room, separating them from the outside world. Although they were provided with food, water, and necessities, they received no interaction. The experiment ended in a cruel failure. The emperor had hypothesized that the children would develop their own language without external contact. However, all the children died after a period. Now, we all understand that children cannot survive without physical affection, love, and encouragement. When people no longer feel lonely, it's as if the sunshine of warmth, care, and love has enveloped them, providing a sense of safety and affection. However, unlike infants or young children who need affection and protection unconditionally, adults are different. Sometimes we must give first to receive something in return. Give and take. I've noticed that the closer people are, the more they give to and receive from one another. This reminds me of a conversation I had with a friend about someone we both knew. I asked, "What do you think about them?" My friend replied with something very human. "I don't like them much because I feel they're not the kind of person who gives." He elaborated, saying the person seemed too self-serving, always calculating their benefits. He felt that if he had nothing to offer them, they'd discard him immediately, only keeping people around for their utility. There are some people whose actions, gestures, or words reveal their self-serving nature, and this makes us reluctant to approach them. Clinging too tightly to oneself can cause us to lose many opportunities and relationships. I used to be like that, not self-serving, but lazy. Sometimes, I knew that doing something would make someone happy or bring us closer, but I couldn't be bothered. I thought everything had its price. But when I was too lazy to take a step toward someone, or even when they took a step toward me, yet I didn't reciprocate, that relationship would inevitably fade away. I've learned that everything does have its price. If we're willing to take the first step, to give before receiving, we'll gain more relationships and more love in return. I'm not the kind of person who naturally gives, but I can observe those around me and recognize who tends to give. I've noticed that people who often give are usually well loved, because when they give something, they don't overthink it or calculate like, "All right, I'm giving you this, so you must give me that in return." It also reminds me of a line from a movie I once watched, though I can't recall which movie it was. The line stuck with me because it was so meaningful. In a relationship, someone has to take the first step, and someone else has to embrace that step. But if you always wait for the other person to make the first move, the relationship will never move forward. Sometimes we shouldn't overemphasize who takes the first step or the second. Even if you're the one who initiates, if they truly don't value the relationship, they won't embrace your step. Those who often give, in my opinion, are the ones who are deeply cherished by others and who tend to have genuinely close and meaningful relationships. I'll wrap up my sharing for today's episode here. If you find this content helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you could share it with your friends and family. Additionally, As always, since YouTube's algorithm prioritizes videos with more likes, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to help more people discover our podcast. Thank you for watching, and I wish you all a peaceful evening.